back. We are looking at more things that are involved with cooking sadza. Uh, of course, we looked at the process in part one, but now we're looking at the extra stuff that we need to consider as well. So first of all, we need to consider that there are standards in the food industry, and those standards also apply in cooking sadza. Uh, but also we can see that there are things that also have to be inclined to the Afrocentric culture of cooking sadza, Isitshwala, Ugali, pap, fufu, and the like. So let's not also forget the cultural aspect of those standards. They have to be inclined to the culture that from where the food is is a staple food, or from where the food is commonly consumed. So we find that we have to also include the need for fire extinguishers near the cooking space, and we have what we call it should be class K fires. Class K fires should be the kitchen fires, so they have a special category, kitchen fires. So from there, that's when we can also use dry powder and carbon dioxide extinguishers to spray on that fire and extinguish it, or suffocate it or choke it. And then we can also have fire blankets, yeah, in case it's centralized on a specific spot, you can just cover it with a fire blanket. But dry powder and carbon dioxide are the two substances that are used, except water. Water is not used because, yeah, it's not really effective. In other fires, you find that you may even use sand. I think you've seen, like, even at gas stations, you have sand boxes or sand buckets, yes, to just throw onto the fire, and it extinguishes the fire. There's some chemical, whatever that happens during that process. So those are some of the ways to extinguish the kitchen fires. And then also we're looking at the need for the use of intelligent technology, like with artificial intelligence. We find that we have the need to create, for example, the innovation that we were talking about in part one. Part one, we were talking about inventing a Sadza cooker, and that needs also, it can be a robot. Yes, a robot does not mean a humanoid. So you can have something that cooks the Sadza for you, a machine that works, but not really big. It can be a small gadget that you can even use as a robot that controls the functions that you would want the Sadza cooker to do. So it communicates with the Sadza cooker, for example. That's the smart technology that we are seeking to implement in such innovative space that we have in Shumbafoot as a creative space. We think of these things as well. And then also the need for detectors, for example, smoke detectors in kitchens, because you can burn something and you might not realize it, or at least you're away. At least when the smoke detector figures out that there's some smoke, or detects that there's smoke in the space, it then triggers the alarm. And the good thing about this intelligent technology that we're talking about, which is common in the fourth industrial revolution, we have some tools like robotics and artificial intelligence. And then the other tools that we can also use, for example, VR and AR, augmented reality and virtual reality, remote sensing, and also remote or teleoperation. Yeah, you can operate the machine while you are away from the kitchen. Yes, you can even time the machine as well while you're away. You can do the functions while you're away. So those are some of the tools that the fourth industrial revolution came with. But also we want to zero in on the need for inclusiveness, okay, if there's no word called inclusiveness, forgive me, but it should be inclusivity, right? Yes, it should be that. So we need to be inclusive to the people who are disabled, for example. We need to be able to incorporate these smart gadgets that are able to communicate with these smoke detectors, and also to communicate with the Sadza cooker in case someone makes it. Of course, there's some machines that are out there making Sadza in bulk, but this one will be for household use. So we're zeroing in on household use, because most of the customers that will come and use those machines are the ones who need them in their homes, and not companies or big organizations. It's just a simple tool that would need to be used in the home. So you need to make it as small as possible, but also serving its purpose of feeding a family in a normal household. So we need a gadget that people, like for the deaf and for the blind and other people with special needs, they need those gadgets so that they are able to be alerted if there's a fire, or if there's smoke, or if there's a problem in the kitchen or in the hut. Well, it's a kitchen as well, because that's where you cook. But yeah, you need to also figure that out. But if you're outside, then it's a bit tricky, because some people still cook outside. For example, in the rural areas, they don't have they don't afford this electricity, so they will have to start a fire with firewood. And we also have to incorporate such people in our innovations, in our planning, so that we make it easier for them not to cut down a lot of trees, because the main worry is not about them producing some some gases, but the main point is those gases need to be trapped by trees, and if they cut down more trees to create the gases, then there's a problem. So we need to also ensure that not only is there reforestation, but also that there is afforestation and less of deforestation. We need to discourage that, but also we need to be able to see that they have enough fuel that they can use, because firewood is their fuel. Well, any of that needs to be looked into by the relevant authorities or relevant innovators. We are waiting for you, part of you people in the Shumbafoot creative space. You can do something to create something that will help solve these people's needs and problems. And even those in houses, they also have some other issues with their sources of heat when cooking. So you need to also incorporate that. And then also we need to figure out how we're going to protect children. Okay, now we're going to move on to safety precautions. How we're going to protect the kids. How we're going to ensure that we protect our hands, because we're talking of heat transfer with the thermal conduction on a pot, from the pot to the handle. When you hold the handle, it means you need to insulate the handle. You need to wear heat resistant gloves, as it is written there. So you need to also be cautious of the problems that come with the burns or the heat that causes the burns, and maybe other problems that may be caused by the heat. You need to be able to protect yourself and also your possessions around, because everything might start burning after a fire is started. After, yeah, maybe if you have a problem with your source of heat, if it's an open fire, it might then burn other things which are around. So you need to be very careful about how your source of heat is producing any fire, or the potential of any fire starting, because when you look at the stages of fire, it starts with smoke, and then you end up with the fuel that is incorporated in there. You also need the presence of oxygen as well to keep the fire burning, and then also that's how the fire then starts. There are steps that the fire takes. So you just need to prevent the smoke from taking place or from starting. I think that's basically it. The rest you can read, but as you can see, we also summarized everything for the sake of those who cannot hear me. We are very cognizant of that, so we have summarized everything so that those who cannot hear, those with special needs, are able to also read and understand the same way in which you have understood me. You understood me as I was explaining these things. So I think that's all for this stage. Let's move on to my favorite part, which is food and nutrition. How are we going to benefit from eating sadza? All right. First of all, I hope I will put the link to one of the videos on Shumbafoot Creative Space. We need to put that link as well to this video, so that you are able to watch that one and understand more about what we're going to be talking about, which is stated in that first paragraph, mainly about glucose. So as you see, glucose is a monosaccharide. You understand it better in that video, but basically it's a simple sugar. So these simple sugars, they're building blocks of the polysaccharides, or they are building blocks of carbohydrates, you see. So we have these complex sugars that are there, and then we have these simple sugars. So like starch, yes, it's a bit complex, but it comes from the simple sugar glucose. We also have glycogen as well. You see that I think it's mentioned as well in that video, food and nutrition on Shumbafoot Creative Space. Yes, but if you do some research as well, you'll find that when people are suffering from sugar diabetes, yes, it's either glucose is in is a large amount. The body is trying to regulate the glucose levels, so some will then be changed to glycogen, and then maybe some will then be changed from glycogen back to glucose. So yeah, that's when you then hear of the insulin being injected in people trying to control sugar levels and the like. But you can do more research and visit your doctor to understand more of that. So that's basically what glucose is. It's like a building block of carbohydrates. And then we see that it's found in Sadza. So Sadza or Isitshwala, you find glucose there because it's a building block of what we find in Sadza, which is carbohydrates. So because there's carbohydrates, it means there's also some glucose there. So how are we able to then see that? How do we break this starch down to glucose? We add water to it. So when you say starch plus water, we then get our glucose. But we can have other conditions to try and speed up that process. For example, we can have sulfuric acid, that H plus that you see at the top of that arrow, that horizontal arrow, and that equation, with that a chemical equation. So that H plus is just talking of a proton donor. So mainly acids are the proton donors, hydrochloric acid and sulfuric acid. You can have other acids that are proton donors. So normally what happens is when they react with bases, maybe they can form water and a salt. Yes. So or even when they, yeah, let's say for example hydrochloric acid plus sodium, some sodium solution or some sodium base, you find that the sodium will react with the chlorine in the hydrochloric acid, and then you find your sodium chloride, which is salt, the salt that you know, yeah, the one that you eat, it's sodium chloride. And then you have that's a type actually. We might have other types, but sodium chloride, that's a common one for table salt. And then the H that was in hydrochloric acid then reacts with the other part of that base, which was bonded to the sodium, and then you get your, let's say it's a sulfate. So you can sodium hydroxide, yeah, exactly, sodium hydroxide, not a sulfate, but let's say sodium hydroxide. So hydrochloric acid by sodium hydroxide, you expect to get sodium chloride and water, exactly. So that's why I was saying there's a salt and a base, but salt does not mean table salt only, but yes, the other residue that you might find which can be separated from the water. So that's basically the idea behind that H plus. So but that H plus that you see there is actually a catalyst. We call it a catalyst, but this one is a chemical catalyst. We'll look at the biological catalyst in the other equation, but for this one we have a chemical catalyst. And what this catalyst does is to speed up the process of the reaction, uh, producing the products. In this case, starch and water is reacting to produce glucose. So sulfuric acid then speeds up that process of the production of glucose without it changing its form at the end of that reaction. So that's basically what the catalyst is. Then we move on to the other conditions. So we call those in the blue, they call them conditions. So we have 393 kelvins. The K is kelvins, that's a standard unit for temperature, and that's equivalent to 120 degrees Celsius. We could have used 200. Okay, I subtracted using 273 degrees Celsius from 393 kelvins to convert to degrees Celsius. But uh, I did not include the 0.16. There is a 0.16 that's there for the standard absolute zero temperature when you look at thermodynamics. But just to approximate, I just made it a whole number, 120 degrees Celsius. So it could have been 119 something something. So that's the temperature, and you see it's above the boiling point of water. Boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, so above, which means that the water is able to break its bonds and form new bonds with other atoms from the starch, and then that would then produce the glucose. So we have put that as one of the conditions. And then we also have pressure, 2 to 3 atmospheres. So atm is atmospheres, but I think 1 atmosphere is equal to 1 times 10 to the power of 5 pascals, if I'm not mistaken. Should be 1 times 10 to the power of 5 pascals. That's equal to 1 atmosphere, if I'm not mistaken. So those are the conditions that will bring us to that, but it's just to speed up the reaction. If you just mix them like that, they will find a balance, so you get glucose, but you also have some starch and water included. But the basic reason why I put this equation was to show you that the starch is actually made of glucose. Couldn't do the experiment, but if we're able to do it to show, we would have done it just to prove this equation. But if you can do the experiment, then yeah, that would be good, that would be great. And you can tell us in the comment section on YouTube if you are able to, or on any other platform that you'll find this video, and then you just tell us if that was successful. And then when we move on, we see that carbohydrates are actually have a high energy value, or they give you energy more than any other sources of nutrients. So if there is carbohydrates, those nutrients actually are energy giving nutrients. And we also find that Sadza, it has a high nutritional value because it has a lot of carbohydrates in it. But also breaking down the sugar levels in the Sadza, the sugar, the saccharide part, breaking it down to the glucose, it actually takes a slower process. It's a slower process in the body. So yeah, when you visit your doctor, they will explain it better how that will affect your sugar levels, um, the rate at which the breaking down of sadza in your body, and also the starch in your body from the sadza, the breaking down of that to glucose, how does that affect your body. You understand it better from your doctor, so make sure you consult your doctor. And also, we find that those who work a lot, especially outdoors with a lot of hard work that's done outdoors, for example with the blue collar jobs, you find that such people, they require a lot of sadza or Isitshwala, because they would have lost a lot of energy, so they need to regain that energy, and that's why they seek to have those saccharides in their body to retain that energy, to or rather regain the energy, because they have already lost it, so they won't be retaining it. So that's where they need to eat. So they usually demand a lot. But for a normal person who's not working like that, you don't need that mkonde we call it mkonde sadza in Shona. But that's like a heap of sadza in a plate. So we don't need that heap. You can just have the size of your fist, as it is written. As it is, some experts say you need just the size of your fist. When you look at the size of your stomach in the body, that's when you understand it better. But that's what you just need. This thing of overeating is not good for your body. You need to have a balanced diet, with all the adequate nutrients and also right proportions of food involved. You can also visit a nutritionist if you are doubting that you are eating a balanced diet. So you then see that that's basically what we gain from sadza. And then also, so it's to feel full, to gain energy, and also maybe if there's other nutritional benefits, yeah, you're also getting that. So that's basically for the part of the Sadza or Isitshwala. Then we have a bonus information to give you as well. So this is not related to the Sadza that we're talking about, but if you watch the part 1 of how to cook Sadza as we're talking about, I had mentioned that you're going to get some bonus information. So this is just where we can also use mealie meal. It can also be used in creating this beverage called, this alcoholic beverage called 7 Days. That's the, okay, that's actually the official name, but it's a nickname actually. Uh, the English name for that beverage in Zimbabwe. So it's actually a beer. And you find that the way it's produced, there's also the use of mealie meal, which is used as well to make sadza, but we also have that. Sadza can actually be stored. If there's leftovers, you can store it to make what we call mahel. That's not an alcoholic beverage, but it also uses some of those ingredients. But it's not an alcoholic beverage. The fermentation doesn't take a long time. It's not 7 days, just a short period, some days, few days, 1 or 2, and then you're done. But this one takes 7 days. That shows you that, yeah, there's huge business taking place there just to produce some ethanol, which is actually the alcohol part, the alcoholic part of the beverage is ethanol. That's the product, maybe around 4 to 6% in those 7 days that's produced. So as you can see in the equation below, we have glucose. That is where we find our sadza in glucose, but also rather we find glucose in the sadza rather, but we also have sorghum, millet. Those should be some of the ingredients of these 7 days. And then other ingredients that I'm not sure of, maybe you can just include them in the comment section. But glucose is the primary idea, the primary saccharide that we use, the monosaccharide. It's aqueous, which means it's a solvent. It's in a solvent, which is water, mainly water. Because yeah, I think you've heard of aquatic life. Yeah, life in water. Yes. So that aqueous part means that there is water. It's in water. The glucose is in water, or it's dissolved in water, and then that produces ethanol, also dissolved in water. It's a liquid in water, plus a gas, which is carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide is not in water. It's not liquefied. It's actually a gas. And I think you've found even fizzy drinks. When you open that fizzy drink, it makes that sound. Yes, that one is actually the release of the pressure of the gas that was accumulating in the bottle, and that gas is actually carbon dioxide. You also find that during this fermentation process, you also produce carbon dioxide. So ethanol is the alcohol that makes you drunk. That part, that's the alcohol part. So you find ethanol. You see the formula of ethanol is C2H5 and OH. So C2 means there are two carbons. That's why it's called ether. The ether part means it's two carbons. And then the all part is actually represented by the OH bond that we see at the end. So it means it's an alcohol. Yes, that hydroxide bond there at the end. So, but you do not need to confuse it. For example, carboxylic acids, they have COOH at the end. So don't confuse with that. This one is just the CH and the OH. So you don't need a COOH at the end. And then, so that's ethanol. And then you find carbon dioxide. You already know it's CO2. That's why it's called carbon C. Then dioxide means di means two. So you have two oxygen atoms in that. Should be a linear bond as well, 180 degrees bond. Yeah, those are other chemistry things that are not necessary for now. But we're just saying that's the formula. But also this fermentation process, I was talking about a catalyst earlier on. Now here we use what we call a biological catalyst. So it can be bacteria. For example, it's not all bacteria that is bad. Some bacteria can actually is useful. So you find that you can have bacteria, or you can have these unicellular organisms like yeast. It produces daughter cells of its own. It can produce or form, or it can break into two copies of its own, which we call daughter cells. So from the parent cell, we then have the daughter cells, and they continue breaking like that, expanding. That's how you developed as a human being from the womb. You were a zygote, an embryo, and then started developing as cells were now dividing. Yes, we call it dividing of the cells, and they now produce daughter cells, and you keep on growing like that. So that's what we also want here, this production of yeast, because the more we have, the greater the output that we have in a faster pace, or it will be quicker to produce more. So the yeast now, it's a biological catalyst because it is helping to produce this carbon dioxide, it is helping to produce this ethanol, it is helping to quicken that process by consuming the sugar that is there and producing these products that are produced. But also we need that biological catalyst to not change its form. It should remain as yeast at the end of that reaction. So that's the job of the catalyst, just to speed up, not to also act as one of the reactants, but just to enable with speeding up the process. We have other ways in which we have these kind of biological catalysts. For example, with washing powder. Washing powder, you can have a biological catalyst which is able to remove dirt from your clothes, even consume it if it is possible, and produce other products which are washable, or other products which can be disposed. So that biological catalyst is not supposed to then react with your clothes, or it is not supposed to eat your clothes. It's just supposed to deal with the dirt that's there and remove that dirt. But some of the washing powder does not have those biological catalysts. So normally if there is that biological catalyst, that's why there is emphasis on the temperature that you need to wash your clothes with, so that so that the catalyst is not killed. It works at its optimum temperature, it will work at its maximum. To put its maximum effort at the right temperature. Otherwise, if you increase a lot or decrease a lot, if you go to the extremes, it might actually kill the bacteria, or we'll just call it a catalyst. If we say bacteria, people will start thinking otherwise. So that's basically the idea behind this fermentation process. So because of that yeast, including that yeast or prokaryotes or this bacteria included as the conditions or the catalyst, we would then call that an anaerobic fermentation. So there is that respiration that is there, that takes place. If you've heard of anaerobic respiration, there's use of the production of carbon dioxide as well by the yeast. But in this case, we just call it anaerobic fermentation because there's that fermentation taking place. Then what else did I want to talk about? We have this alcohol that is being produced as ethanol, but yeast, rather not yeast. This alcohol actually, people may say it smells a bit good. Yeah, it's their own preference. But there is this scent that you get from ethanol. It is also because one of the it can also be used to make what you call esters. They have a nice fragrance and they can be used in perfumes and the like. Yes, we have what we call esters. So yeah, we can have ethanol being used to also produce those esters by reacting with other reactants, and then you produce those. But that's some chemistry stuff to understand. But I just wanted you to know that that's why it also smells good. It's also it smells good, just to also show you that it is also used for other purposes. because of its nice smell, and that's probably why some people like drinking alcohol as well. Otherwise, if it smelled so bad, then people will not consume it. But that's basically it for this video. I hope you have understood a lot. Of course, we have explained a lot about what was not related to Sadza, but just bonus information for those interested. What we just wanted you to know is that when you eat Sadza, you get glucose, but you get energy. That's the most important part. You get energy. You are energized. You regain the energy that you have lost, and that will be good for your day-to-day activities, so that you don't feel down or feel useless. You are able to do the activities at your maximum, with your maximum effort, because you have the energy. And yeah, enjoy your Sadza, and also enjoy Shumbafoot content from now and beyond, and continue to also consult your doctor if you have any questions concerning these health issues, and also concerning food and nutrition. You can consult your nutritionist. They can help you with that. And those who don't have nutritionists, yeah, just your doctor can try out something to help you. Can also help you with checkups if you need to also understand your sugar levels and the like. And yeah, just visit your doctor to get checkups, because you never know how your health is, and you might be eating a lot of this Sadza when yet you need to stop. Some people actually are encouraged to stop because of this improper regulation of the sugar levels in their body. So you also need to understand that. But yeah, this is a staple food in some countries in Africa, and it was nice to inform you of what Africans think about this food. And we hope you have learned a lot about the science behind it, and also the culinary aspect of it, and also just more about it as a food, and also how to make it. Yes, I hope you have learned a lot, and I hope you enjoy the content and enjoy your Sadza. Thank you.